Muchachos y muchachas. So I was thinking the other day, I was like, I've never really paused to take a moment and make a thorough introductory video about myself. And in today's age, full of independent creators and truthers out there, I think truth needs to be transparent. And so I'm going to give you guys a little background about, how I got to where I am with the anti-human trafficking, some of my experiences, the outreach and ministry that I've been part of. And, maybe that'll help you understand my perspective in the content that I create here and what I will continue to create here. So we're going to just cannonball right in. I don't know how else to start this video. So I'm going to take you back to 2012. So 2012 was a very low point in my life. I was so sad. I was so depressed. I had just gotten out of a long-term relationship. And, at that point was told about God. I was given verses, but I didn't understand until I hit that bottom barrel. And, this was a point in my life where, I was starting to venture into consuming a lot of alcohol. And, it was starting to become a problem, not to the point of alcoholism, but, it was a component of my life that helped me cover up the void in my heart and the sadness that I had. And so in 2012, when I got out of a relationship, I remember the day, I remember it like yesterday. I didn't know how to pray. I just said out loud, I stretched my arms out and I was like, God, I don't know if this is the right prayer to pray. I don't know if I'm talking to you. I don't know if you hear me, but this is it. I am done. I am ready for you to go ahead and take control of my life. And, I don't know what you have for me, but I'm just giving it all up. And that was the day. It was September in 2012. And I remember just starting over. And as I transcended, it didn't get, when you get saved, when you get reborn into, Christ and accepting him in your heart, things don't just automatically change overnight. And, it takes transcendence, and that's what happened. So I still had that void in my heart. I was like, there's still a void in my heart. I didn't know that I was searching for purpose, but that's what God showed me, that I had no purpose. And that's what I was really seeking as well, his will for me. And so transcendence. I somehow got into the ministry of anti-human trafficking. Let me tell you how that happened. So my best friend, Rocky, which shout out to Rocky if you're watching this. She actually started out as a makeup artist. Well, we became friends through makeup artistry. I was a makeup artist for MAC Cosmetics. That's where we worked at MAC Houston, one of the flagship stores in the country. And at that time in the early thousands, that was like the place to work if you wanted to be a makeup artist. So we both met there. And very coincidentally, Rocky was also, reborn in Christ. Around that time, she was very hot for ministry, and she had gotten into anti-human trafficking at that time. And it was through Lakewood where she got into that ministry. And she invited me to a photo shoot one time because, we were both makeup artists. She needed a hand on a photo shoot. She was like, hey, if you know any special effects, can you help me on this photo shoot? We're, making the models up to look domestically abused. And I was like, okay. And, I've done looks like that before, for Halloween. MAC always had appointments for Halloween and all that. So I knew special effects. So I said, yeah, of course, I'll help you. But I didn't quite know what the photo shoot was for. And so when I arrived on set, I made the models up who later became my friends. And, I asked her, I was like, what is all this about? And she was like, oh, we're doing a photo shoot in awareness for human trafficking. And I was like, what is that? And so all these girls were part of that ministry of, anti-human trafficking. And I was like, oh, so they explained everything about it, girls, women, they get entrapped into this life. They get forced, fraud, coerced into, indentured servitude, sexual exploitation. They get sold by men. And I was like, whoa. And of course, later down the line, we learned that it's not just men, women do it as well. But that was like a mind-blowing moment for me. I was like, whoa, because I had never heard of human trafficking. And this was in 2012, where nobody was talking about this whatsoever. And so I was intrigued, and they later invited me to be part of the photo shoot. I was like, okay, cool. So, that's where my journey just started, with the ministry of outreach. And from there, I joined this group of girls, and that's all they did was just awareness. They prayed for the victims out there. And it was just something so new to me, especially in my journey being a new Christian and, searching for that purpose. And I guess we can say at this point that purpose found me. So in our own little ways and capacity, we tried our best to, tell people around us about it. And that's where we ventured a little further, talking about ideas of how we could help and volunteer. And that is where the opportunity to volunteer for a safe house came about. And this was a safe house in the Houston area for rescued minors. Okay, that was like the first thing that I saw was just a house of rescued minors. And so fast forward, I volunteered willingly. I was like, I'll give up my time, whatever they need. And like I said, I was a makeup artist. So I was like, what if I do face painting, just like not makeup, but face painting for the girls in the house. And that's what I did from time to time. I would volunteer. And let me just add that with one of my first experiences, just encountering survivors, let alone these are children, these are girls that were rescued. It was the experience of these little girls just wanting someone to look up to, just wanting someone to speak into them. Like, I couldn't imagine what they were, I couldn't fathom what they went through, but just the gratitude of someone who is a young adult who believes in them, who's interested in knowing what their dreams are and what they aspire to be, just something as little as that. They look up to that so much. And having that experience of looking at the girls eye to eye and speaking to them, it was very shifting. I couldn't believe that not a lot of people knew about this horrific epidemic in our society. I later joined a ministry called Elijah Rising. And Elijah Rising was, incredible in what they did. They're still incredible with what they did and do. And they offered these van tours. And this is something, if you're in Houston, you gotta go on one of these van tours. What they do is they will take you in a van to the most affected parts of Houston in regards to human trafficking. So they took, this group out to different parts, and, just seeing the brick and mortar places of the brothels, knowing the different cultures part of these brothels, right? You've got the Asian brothel spas, that you probably see in every single corner of your zip code. That's how prevalent it is. And seeing who owned it. And they would bring up the property records in this van tour and show you, like, this is who owns it, who's behind it. And then they bring us to the ship channel, where just it broadened my understanding even more, which would bring me to my next phase of outreach. So The ship channel in Houston, they have these things called cantinas. In Spanish, that is a bar. But cantinas, in the sense of human trafficking, what it is a front for, just like the massage parlors, you know, it's a front for a massage, and then it becomes something more nefarious if it is one of those types of businesses, right? But for cantinas, it is also something more broadening for us to understand. And I think a lot of people still don't know what happens, but a lot of Latin American females and girls, they get trafficked here to the United States to become indentured servants. And what happens is the ship workers, they'll get off of their shift, off of the boat, and they'll seek entertainment. So they'll either go to a strip club or they will go to a cantina where, if it is a nefarious business, the trafficked women or girls will then become what's called pony girls. And they will then buy these indentured servants for that transaction. And so part of the ministry with Elijah Rising, which I still is just so incredible that they did this, is that every fourth Friday at that time, they would have outreach night. And so they would have different portions. Some people would stay back at the headquarters. They would, at that time, Backpages was still up. And what they would do is they would have volunteers call the listings and basically pray for the girls, you know, talk to them, or the women, and basically, you know, tell them like they are loved, and if they ever need resources and rescue, to please, you know, and there would be a resource offered to them, which again, just like, I can't repeat how incredible this is. And so then there was another outreach, which was there would be the Asian spas and then the cantinas. And because I am a Spanish speaker, I opted to try the cantinas. And so what we would do is we would outreach to the sex workers at these cantinas. We would pray with them. And, you know, it was only God that would allow us in these cantinas and get out safely. I'll be honest with you. And because a lot of these cantinas are ran by very shady people, including cartels. And so the intention behind this was to love on the sex workers, tell them that they are loved, that there is a life outside of this. And, you know, if they ever need prayer or when they're ready, they can always, you know, depend on this group. And so, you know, that was the goal, was to break them out of their trauma bond, which, you know, maybe later I will explain. Well, you know, it's important that I explain it. So trauma bond is where a sex worker, a sex trafficking victim will get coerced mentally, spiritually. It's spiritual. We can't avoid that, where they feel that they can't leave their trafficker because they are fear-based coerced. They will be told that their family will be in danger, that, you know, that they will be in danger if they ever thought about leaving. And so that's what keeps these victims from fleeing their abuser. And so that it's important to, that's why you will see survivors or victims, they'll have difficulty leaving, or they will run back because of that. And it is a form of Stockholm syndrome a little bit. And so that was the operation. I would go in and talk to some of these sex workers, pray with them. And it was just, I mean, an eye-opening experience. And this is a little clip of one of those nights of our outreach covered by ABC 13.
On any given night, there are hundreds, possibly even thousands of women and children in Houston enslaved in the growing sex trafficking industry. And sadly, Houston has become an international hub. Tonight, reporter Art Resco hits the streets for a closer look at the problem and what is being done to fight it.
Hand God, that signs and wonders a small room in a seedy part of town is a woman on a mission to save the enslaved.
It takes the Holy Spirit revealing the dignity and worth of the human to a man's heart to turn him from a consumer to a protector.
That's it? That's the one?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
We got it.
A lot of folks there tonight, man.
Yeah, it's busy.
So, with a group of volunteers, she hits the streets to clean them up.
Ready?
Ready?
Okay. All right.
Section.
All right, so here we go. To our first stop.
With a hidden camera, we walk into a raunchy North Side cantina, a supposed hotspot for sex traffickers.
How deeply embedded is this problem in Houston?
Modern-day slavery still exists in Houston. It's alive and well, and it's in the form of human trafficking.
𝘏𝘶𝘮𝘢 and the FBI recently shut down 2 brothels and arrested 14 for running an international sex trafficking ring. But this guy, Alfonso Diaz-Juarez, got away.
How badly do you want this Juarez guy?
We want him badly because he is a sinister character. We want him. We want him. He is a top priority.
The indictment against him and others makes this Houston problem so very clear. Women and girls were compelled into commercial sex acts through the use of force, fraud, coercion, including the use of locked rooms to maintain control over the girls.
Over the past year and a half, there has been a sickening discovery. The dark alleys of Houston have become an international sex trafficking hub. All points lead to this city. It has become the perfect storm.
They've been lied to, coerced, brainwashed.
Lieutenant McGregor knows these cantinas, brothels, massage parlors, and stash houses better than most.
This is modern slavery is all this is.
But cracking these sex rings is not easy.
And we're having a really hard time doing that.
The girls just don't want to talk.
No, they're scared of us. And they're scared of, if we talk about the international ones, they're scared of being deported.
So you guys know it?
Back on the streets, we come across several women attempting to prostitute themselves.
There's as many stories as there are girls in exploitation.
And Kat French is at it again.
The objective is to bring the message of hope, the message of love.
On a mission of rescue, one girl at a time.
No girls were rescued from slavery that night, but the FBI and police agencies are pleading for the public's help. Sex trafficking is booming in Houston, and the thugs and pimps responsible don't care about anything but the greenback, money. It is a lucrative, secretive industry that all Houston area law enforcement agencies are now paying special attention to. Art Rascone, 13 Eyewitness News.
And so from there, I'm still hot for the ministry. I'm like, this is still a problem. This is so rampant. I still can't believe at this time, it was about 2015, that a lot of people still didn't know about this. And so I tried within my capacity, and mind you, I didn't have a lot of money to do anything really. So I tried to volunteer my time. And that's where I later would volunteer for another safe house, and this one was for adults, rescued adults. And basically, I would visit the home. I would teach them how to do makeup. I thought, as a side gig, this would be good for them. Like if they wanted to make extra money, they can actually do makeup, and that could be like their freelance business. So I would teach makeup to survivors, to teach them how to do their makeup. And then I would mentor some of the survivors as well, one of which has become my friend. And I'm so grateful for that friendship because it gives me a lot more understanding and perspective. And as time transcended, then, the planned apocalypse happened. Everybody was, forced in their homes, and, a lot of these operations ceased. And, there was just a big pause there for the world. I think we can all understand that. And then amid all of this, then we hear about the border. And of course, let me actually take it back. I'm forgetting one pivotal piece of my experience here. So one night when I was outreaching at a cantina, I remember being in a cantina, and in this cantina in particular, and I see at the very back, there's always a lineup or a lineup spot for the girls or the ladies to, you know, basically line up for the Johns. Johns are clients, people, the dudes who buy this. And I remember in one lineup bench, you know, you see grown women, you know, and they're identifiable, you know, as the girls that are being sold. And then I see an actual girl, and she looked about 11 or 12. And I just remember to myself that I was like, that's a little girl. And the time that we would go out to outreach to this cantina, it was well over 10 o'clock. So a girl that young should have not been out at night, first of all, but also not in a bar where we all understand that you need to be at least 21 to be in a bar. So I put two and two together while I was there, and I was like, oh my gosh, this little girl is being trafficked. And I remember freaking out, going back to the group, reporting back, hey, there's a minor in there, reported it to the police. And, you know, we're not allowed, whether we're doing ministry or if I'm volunteering at the border, I am not allowed to impersonate myself as law enforcement, as, you know, we're not allowed to extract like that, because as you guys may or may not know, especially nowadays, you know, U.S. citizens will get criminalized because then it would be considered kidnapping or, you know, forced kidnapping, things like this, right? And so you have to go by the law. And I remember calling HPD and reporting this. And with that being said, we're not allowed to extract this little girl out. And so HPD kept up with me, and they basically needed more detail, right? Because they wanted to go extract this girl. They wanted to rescue her. And as I talked to the detective, you know, he was getting more details, the timestamps, you know, what she was dressed in and all this. And I remember this, and it scarred me, which is what propelled me to go more and more and more and more till today. I remember that the detective talked to me. It was like a day or two after the operation, or the outreach, not the operation, the outreach. And he was like, we went to go try to find the girl, and we could not find her. They moved her. And that was just so shifting for me. Like, how can it be that an 11-year-old girl is just moved like that? She can't be found anymore. She's just a mystery now. And that's the mystery that really scarred me and propelled me even forward, was when we went on ministry outreach to pray for these ladies, to pray for these sex workers, that one night when I see a girl, she cannot be recovered. Just scarred me. So then, you know, like I said, I volunteered for a safe house for adults, taught them makeup, mentored. And then fast forward to the border, right? Where we're hearing about this influx in, I think, you know, there's always been a problem at the border, but the influx that we're seeing now really was happening in 2021. And I went to the border as part of a coalition, you know, a PAC. And, you know, they were very focused in, you know, America First policies, and, you know, it was geared towards Latinos. And so the border being the problem that it is, we're also very concerned about the Latinos that are being trafficked here. And so that's also a concern. And so seeing what I saw, which were single adult males coming over with little girls, single adult males coming over with little boys, children coming over looking sedated, children coming over looking devastated and depressed, not allowed to talk or speak for themselves when a question was asked of them. Okay. And so further down the line, continuing my experience and seeing the border for myself, I did accompany a militia called Patriots for America. They are Christian based. They are mainly there at the border to survey for situations of children in distress, children in nefarious situations. And believe me, those situations definitely presented themselves, at least at the times that I was there. I actually did a video on this on one of my experiences there, where there were two little girls that were coming over. They were going to Los Angeles. There was like this older lady that was looking over their shoulder the entire time I was talking to them.
There's a foothold right here.
Huh? Yep. Yeah. I'll take the rear.
And I have the bucket again. Careful right here. All right, so that tunnel's clear.
Hey guys, so I am here at the border once again. We've got a big group here, some children that are coming over, two girls that have said that they came over from Honduras and they came by themselves. There was a woman who said that she found them in Piedras Negras and that she didn't want them coming over by themselves, so she went ahead and crossed with them. Coming over from Honduras all by themselves, that's a bit questionable. I don't know if that makes any sense, but here is for one of our first groups tonight. So. Okay.
I want you to very discreetly ask them if anybody in this group tried to hurt them too.
Okay. Nadie. No?
It's okay if you can tell us, it's okay.
Sí.
No, hay hecho solo los conocemos.
Si necesitas ayuda, me digas, ¿ok? No necesitas ayuda.
It was just wild because they were already in CPB custody, Border Patrol custody. So, there's nothing you can do. Can't take them, you got to go by the book. And unfortunately, that is the system that we are living through right now. That is the system that they have to go through right now. And then there was another situation, just another experience where this young lady, she was not a child. She was in her early 20s. She told me her name. She told me her experience. She came over the border. We saw the coyotes bringing them over in a raft. And she was shaken. She was crying. She was trembling. And later down the line, when I talked to her in Spanish, I was like, listen, you're here. Tell me what happened. And, I changed my tone to a more compassionate tone because I wanted her. There was another female she was accompanied with that actually got trapped back with the coyotes, the coyotes. And she was trembling. She would not tell me about that situation. She would not tell me who that girl was, but she told me about her experience and how she was exploited through Latin America, her journey here to the United States, and how, you know, various coyotes and law enforcement that were corrupt exploited her, violated her. And see, this is a compassion that I understand there's an influx, and I don't agree with what's going on. But what people don't see is that there are very human experiences, very human, you know, distressing situations that these children and adolescent human beings are going through. And so that was the heart of the militia, was to, you know, scout for those situations. In fact, one instance that happened that I was not present at, but there was a little girl who had just lost her father crossing over, and one of the coyotes was trying to coerce her into going with him. And one of the militiamen said no. You know, he walked the little girl to Border Patrol himself and told the Border Patrol about the situation, to not allow that little girl to go with that single adult male who was trying to coerce her. You know, that's a perfect scenario for, hey, like, you do need extra eyes on the border. And right now, that's just non-existent. But these situations are happening every single day. Every single day. At different breach points of the border. Despite what the media is telling you, despite what these corrupt officials are telling you, this is happening every single day. You know, that was an experience that I needed, was to see it, I guess, as a journalist. You know, I don't really consider myself a journalist. I just want to experience and see this for myself. And, you know, that was a portion of human trafficking that I also needed to understand and see with my own eyes, just to add that facet in my understanding. And it's just such a problem. And, you know, now it's a bigger picture for me, seeing it on the domestic side, seeing the Asian brothels, seeing the cantinas, seeing the border, right? It's like there's such a holistic problem in our society. And really, you know, I guess God intended me to have all of those experiences to have or develop this bigger idea of how to remediate it. And that's going to take an entire economy to remediate this problem. So, you know, that is my experience, you know, just seeing it for myself. And I also remember this one time, there was one outreach to the ladies on Bissonnette Street in Houston. In Houston, there's this street called Bissonnette. It's known as the track. And this is where a lot of these sex workers walk down to get clientele. And I saw it in that perspective too, you know, seeing the pimps and the traffickers like control these girls and see them coerced. Like it's such a bad problem, and it's happening in every single zip code. And so, you know, when I see our culture today where children are being told certain things, and shocking things that I have never seen in such a holistic culture, you know, try to indoctrinate children the way that we see it today. This is why it's important to speak out. It's not just about the celebrities. It's not just about the fashion world. It's about our culture as well. So yes, I mean, when I see pop culture influencing Generation Z and millennials, and they're so oblivious to what is going on and what they're being indoctrinated with, I'm going to talk about it, and I'm going to point it out. Pointing out the darkness in our pop culture is one thing, but also appended to that, we need to be talking about how it affects the culture in our own backyard, the younger generations. That's why I talk about a variance of topics here on this channel because I see it with different eyes. I see it with a different perspective. And that's why I'm going to continue making content the way I do. It's going to be a mixture. Sometimes I'm going to do digs on fashion houses and celebrities. Sometimes I'm just going to do a story where it's like, hey, this happened in Australia, or this happened in the UK where they're putting on shows for children like this. And you have to understand that all of this is necessary. Not just that, but also pop culture and also fashion and celebrities and music and the way that these media outlets report. Because they're overshadowing a bigger problem in our society. So anyway, that's some of my experience for you guys. It's already like 25 minutes in. So yeah, I will continuously do these pieces. And I just thought that I would give you guys a little bit of background about me. Thank you guys so much for your support. Thank you for continuously watching this channel and becoming interested in these topics. I love you. Bye, guys.